Right, so today I want to talk about a story out of the UK that's very sad, and it's something that I've talked about before, but again, people seem to really enjoy ignoring the reality of it. And it's titled Girl 19 is charged with perverting course of justice after telling police she was drugged and raped by Asian sex gang in Cumbria. And for starters, anybody who's actually paying attention knows it's not an Asian gang. That's the reality is that they are Muslims. Let's just be honest about it. So I don't think I'll read the whole story because it's very long. It's pretty graphic. But the problem that I really wanted to bring up is why do we let this kind of stuff go on in society? Like, why do we let it go on? And there's many reasons to speculate, but one of the main ones being is, I mean, that it's kind of tied in together, and that's we have the left who thinks that any differences in group outcomes is a result of racism, that everybody's the exact same, and there's no, even though, again, the left likes to lecture Christians about evolution, but yet they'll pretend like uh, races of people spending tens of thousands of years uh, in completely different climates in completely different areas has no effect whatsoever on their evolution. Like the idea of that is absolutely insane. Like of course someone who spent a race of people that spent 10,000 years in Africa is going to be different than a race that spent 10,000 years in like northern Europe or Serbia or somewhere like that, or even Asia. And like they're vastly different climates. They're vastly different in pretty much every way, shape, and form. So that's the first thing to point out. And the big problem is that anybody who points this kind of stuff out is called a racist. And the first thing being is that for anybody who still thinks that, racism only means when you judge people differently when there is no difference, right? Like let's just say that you have group A who commits murder at a rate of 10 per 100,000. You have group B that commits murder at a rate of 10 per 100,000. And you say, "Oh, group A, they're a bunch of thugs, they're criminals and they're gangbangers and stuff like that." Well, that would be racist because there's no actual difference. Okay? That is what racist means, is judging people differently with no basis in reality. Now, judging individuals is not okay either, regardless of whether or not they fit group, whether or not whatever idea or ideals they fit. Um, Judging groups differently when they act differently is okay. Now, I'm not saying you make it your life mission to destroy to do that kind of stuff, but if you have group A that commits murder at a rate of 100 per 100,000 and group B that does it at a rate of 10 per 100,000, saying, yeah, group A, there's a lot more criminals and a lot more gangbangers in there, that's not racist because it's rooted in reality. I'll give you another example, a real world example. Young men pay a lot more in car insurance than young women. Why is that? Because young men are more likely to get in accidents. I mean, young men are probably more likely to drive more expensive cars, but they're more likely to get in accidents, to get tickets, to get stuff like that. Why is it okay for insurance companies to do that and not incredibly sexist? Because young men do get in more accidents, they do get more tickets. And if the left actually believed what they believe, they would be saying that insurance companies charging young men more for car insurance is sexist because according to them, the only way that their ideas make sense is if the only reasons for differences in group outcomes is racism or prejudice. That's the only way that their ideas make sense. But anybody with half a brain knows that isn't true. Like anyone with half a brain knows that isn't true because everybody knows that it's realistic to charge people more for insurance if they're more likely to need to use the insurance. Like that's just basic reality, basic math. So getting back to this story is that it's not racist to point out that the large majority of people being committed of these kind of crimes are Muslims. They're not Asians. Again, why the media keeps saying that, I have no idea. But um, the point being is that why do we let this stuff go on in society? That there's been hundreds of thousands, and I know that number sounds crazy, but hundreds of thousands of largely white, I mean some Sikh girls as well, that have been sexually assaulted, sexually groomed, and yet the police largely doesn't even care. I mean, you have example after example of people in Sweden and these countries that literally rape, underage girls, and yet they get off with probation, they get off with community service. Like, what does this world come to? Like, what does this world come to? Now, the other problem with this is that this is just going to make um, whatever race relations that, I mean, people talk about racial relations, this is just going to make it worse because the people who actually are racist are just going to take this as an example of, hey, the government really is biased in favor of them. That it just makes people who actually are more racist more likely to be racist because it gives them more of a justification. Now, I don't support actual racism, but um, it just gives them more of a justification, and that is the problem. Um, and it also makes the people who are committing this kind of stuff, the Muslim, I mean, largely Muslim grooming gangs, the Muslim men, um, it just tells them that, hey, we can get away with this kind of stuff. Let's do it more. And the problem just festers and festers and festers, and the left comes in all high and mighty, being like, hey, the solution is more government. Give us more power. We need more immigration. The problem is that they're just being racist against the Muslims. We need more immigration, and before you know it, the entire society goes belly up, and that is the problem. So. Um, it is something that I wanted to bring up, and there's so many people that you talk to that are not aware of this kind of stuff. And most people who, if you're not on the left, you should be for drastically cutting immigration in Canada and anywhere for that matter, um, most likely to zero for a while. And whenever you talk to people who are pro-immigration, they have no idea why it is that people would be anti-immigration, and it's because they have no idea. They've spent zero time whatsoever evaluating other people's opinions, and they don't have the ability to think critically. But this is one of the many reasons why we need to oppose mass immigration. The only people that should be coming in are people that are, number one, they should be working. Number two, they need to be vetted. Like the idea of just bringing people in randomly is absolutely insane. So anyway, I just wanted to make a video about that. So if you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got a link in the description. Again, appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Last couple things. Check me out on Twitter and check me out on BitChute. All the links are in the description, so you can find them all there.